Hey everyone, this is Nikachu, Merfolk Master, and today we are going to look at all the ways that we can keep or mulligan hands with modern Merfolk. And if you love learning strategy about Merfolk like I do on this channel, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Now, the deck that we are going to be drawing hands with will be with my somewhat latest list that I am trying to prepare for PPTQs coming up. It is going to be just the general list that I will be using for our, our playtesting, keep and mulliganing, whatever. So let's get right into it. Well, here's a starting hand with 2 lands, 1 Ether Vial, and just a bunch of creatures. This hand is great. You're going to keep this on both the play and on the draw. It's going to be really good as an aggressive hand, playing your turn 2 Master of the Pearl Trident or Lord of Atlantis. And it's also pretty good on defense and to catch up on the draw because of Ether Vial and Harbinger of the Tides. It is almost super premium. I mean, assuming you're not up against some sort of combo deck, this hand is going to be incredibly strong. Great against humans, great against spirits. It's going to be fine. I think it's going to be fine player draw against Jund. We do have the Master of Waves, so against a lot of decks we still have something to come over the top. And not to mention against Jund, we have Oboro if we really need to throw away a random card in our hand at some point. So this hand on the play on the draw is also very good. We have Cavern of Souls into like Mistcaller, into Silvergill Adept, and then, well, we don't have a Phantasmal Image play, but hopefully in the next few turns we're going to draw into something, and at the very least, if we don't draw a blue source, we can at least attack with Mutavault. This hand is definitely a keep. It's not something I want to throw away. Just keep in mind you can't cast a Phantasmal Image off of this, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. We just need one more blue source to cast both Merfolk Trickster and Harbinger of the Tides and the Phantasmal Image. Not to mention, we could draw, like, maybe even Ether Vial in the next few turns, and, like, if this hand gets a little too slow to catch up on mana, the moment that we do hit our mana, we might be able to catch up with Merfolk Trickster and Harbinger of the Tides. So this hand, so something I sort of look for is how many mana sources do we have, and I will count Ether Vial as a mana source. This hand has 4 mana sources, and 4 is basically the maximum that I want to have in a hand, especially if one of those lands is not a Mutavault. Mutavault can be almost considered a creature in your hand. Instead of just a land. It just so happens that it also works pretty well as a land. So this hand is definitely a keep on both the play and the draw. Ether Vial definitely good on the draw. You can start off with Silvergill Adept into Master of the Pearl Trident, or Tidebire Mage into Silvergill Adept into Master of the Pearl Trident, depending on like what deck you're up against. It's just not really worth throwing a hand of lands and spells away. This is not really like iffy at all. So this is an interesting hand. I would keep this because we do have the draw with Spreading Seas, and at the very least we can play Phantasmal Image on one of our opponent's creatures. Like the only iffy part is we don't have a double blue source to play Tidebire Mage, Lord of Atlantis, or Master of the Pearl Trident. But I think, like, at the very least, if you wanted to, you could Spreading Seas the Mutavault, but I'm pretty confident that you can Spreading Seas something else, take a turn off to play Phantasmal Image, copy one of your opponent's creatures, and then hopefully that we hit our land. And if you don't hit the land, well, we still have a Mutavault that we can attack with or defend with for a little while. Yeah, not something I want to throw away. Definitely close. I mean, it's definitely pretty close. Like, this is the type of hand that might get screwed. Some other things to consider. Let's say I'm up against like a really bad player. Let's say I'm up against a pony, and I don't know, you're playing for top 8. Maybe you should throw away this hand. Like, this hand is definitely going to like lose some percentage of the time. But the thing is, if you draw that island, you're just going to play some really strong card turn after turn after turn. So something I want to keep, but something you could throw away against someone really bad if you just don't want to like lose to variance. The problem is, like, when you mulligan with Merfolk, and I said this in like my past Keeper mulligan videos, Merfolk can come back from mulligans pretty well, but I don't think Merfolk is a good deck that mulligans, because if you get like a 1-lander with a bunch of, or you get a Mutavault with a bunch of double blue source creatures, then like then you might have to go to 5, or you're forced to keep an even worse 6. The thing about Merfolk is that we can come back from mulligans because of Spreading Seas and Silvergill Adept, but only if we get those sort of combination of cards. Not to mention another factor that we should consider is that Mardu and Jund are pretty big decks, and Control is still pretty popular right now, and the more you mulligan, the more you're in danger of losing to those types of decks. So this is a really premium hand. I would give this a solid, I don't know, let's see, we curve this into these other things, and we have Spreading Seas. I mean, this is like a 9 out of 10, more or less, because you're going to, or maybe an 8 out of 10, maybe 9 out of 10 has an Ether Vial somehow, but you go like Mist, we have Land Drop into Mist Caller, into like either Master of the Pearl Trident or Merfolk Trickster on turn 2, and then after we've emptied our hand and we're ready to go in unblockable, after our opponent has set up some creatures to defend themselves, that's when we're going to play Spreading Seas and then go in there for the kill. This hand is an easy keep. We've got lands and spells. We can comfortably curve out into the Master of the Pearl Trident, into either Phantasmal Image, or we could play Spreading Seas on turn 3, and then play Master of Waves on turn 4, and then play Phantasmal Image on turn 5, copying Master of Waves, and go in for like a really lethal attack. But alternatively, you could also go Master of the Pearl Trident, Phantasmal Image, copy Master of the Pearl Trident, into Master of Waves, and then just try to Island Walk, kill them with Mutavault, Master, Waves Master, and Phantasmal Image. Okay, so here's one of the more interesting hands. On the play, this is an easy dump. You definitely want... I don't want to keep one landers on the play. Those are very dangerous. Now, in general, you're going to want to mulligan this on the draw. And one situation where I might want to keep this on the draw is when I'm up against a very high attrition-based deck. I think the greatest example right now is Mardu Pyromancer, because that deck can grind like crazy with Bedlam Reveler and the Faithless Lootings. It's just really hard for them to ever have a bad top deck or have a really bad hand. So you need like an infinite amount of gas against those players. This might be an acceptable hand to keep on the draw. It's a one-lander, so if they Inquisition you, then it's not incredibly damaging. And if they don't Inquisition you, we can keep drawing cards with Silvergill Adept when we draw our land. The odds of drawing that land, not incredibly... I mean, it's fine. It's fine. It's not terrible. But, you have to take some risky... It's still a risky keep on the draw. And if you're up against Mardu Pyromancer and they mulliganed, well, you could take a mulligan, but you could still consider keeping this 7. But if they keep their 7, I would just keep the 7. I wouldn't really think about it. I really don't want to... you have to know that you're up against basically Mardu Pyromancer or something super highly attrition based in order to keep this one lander on the draw. Otherwise, I would throw this away against any other deck, because you're going to fall behind. You're not going to hit that second land drop immediately. That's for sure. I mean, it might take it might take a few turns for you to find it, but I think the risk is worth the reward. So here on the play on the draw, I would keep this. We have a 1-drop, we have our 2-drop, and then hopefully we can find a land after our 2 draw steps and Silvergill Adept draw. But that's definitely a keep I'm going to make. Here you have great hand. We have land drop into Ether Vial, into Silvergill Adept. We can play Merfolk Trickster into Tidebire Mage, and we have Spreading Seas. So the hand is very good. It has all the land that we could possibly want, and we can curve out very comfortably. This hand is great. It's 4 lands, but whatever, it's fine. We have a really also our hand is very top heavy, but we're going to do nothing on turn 1, but we are going to slow our opponent down on turn 2, and we do have approximately 3 draw steps to have something to cast on turn 3, which I think is fine. And then when we go, and Master of Waves, of course, is our top end card, and we have the mana already in our hand to cast it and then cast it again. So this is a keep as well. Like you really have to look for some way to like mulligan a hand. So again, like this is the sort of hand you mulligan in general, but on the draw. On the draw against Mardu Pyromancer or something of that effect that has just unlimited removal, you could consider keeping this on the draw. And maybe to further reiterate that point that I made earlier about like playing against ponies, you maybe even against Mario Pyromancer, you could like mulligan this against a pony. You don't want like card. Card advantage doesn't matter as much against like worse players, but it does matter a lot against very good players. So if you think you're up against like a pro, if you're up against or just one of the better players in your tournament, then you need to be a little bit more greedy with your keeps in order to compete with their skill. Like card power, card advantage is going to be very important. Whereas when you're up against poorer players, when you're up against the ponies, card advantage doesn't matter as much because they're going to make a lot of mistakes, and they're going to make enough mistakes that you can make up with some skill. So therefore, you could throw away a card. So let's mulligan, for example. Let's say we're on the draw against a pony. Where is the mulligan button? So we're gonna take a mulligan, and this hand is just way better. This would be a way better hand to have on the draw against Mardu Pyromancer. And you know what? If they take our Ether Vial, that's still fine. Like, that's still fine. We're still a one-lander that can turn into a two-lander and get our game going against Mardu Pyromancer. That's totally fine. It's better to have... you know, some people are concerned about keeping one-land Vial hands against Inquisition decks, but in my opinion, that's exactly where you want to be. You want to have a handful of cards against those Inquisition decks. Like, how else are you going to beat them? Do you want to mulligan to a 3-land, 3-card hand, and then they Inquisition you, and then you have 2 more threats left? Like, you're just going to lose that game. Whereas when you have these 1-landers and they Inquisition you and they take your Vial, then you have a chance. Like, if you draw a land, then you're totally in that game. You're just going to play things every single turn. You're going to play a game of Magic. So here, there's another keep. We have lands and spells. So we've got 2 islands and an Ether Vial. We can easily go Mistcaller, play Harbinger of the Tides, and you know, Phantasmal Image is a pretty skill dependent card. You can opt to copy Harbinger of the Tides. I would really try to wait for Master of Waves. You can even take this Ether Vial up from 3 to 4, Vial in the Master of Waves, and then hardcast the Phantasmal Image to copy the Master of Waves. But you know, depending on the situation, you might want to copy one of your opponent's creatures, you know, whatever. But this is just an easy keep. It has lands and spells you can curve out easily. Here, just another hand. Lands and spells. You have 2 lands to cast things. I'm not going to think about ever mulliganing these sort of hands. Another hand. Lands and spells. We got 2 islands. We have Ether Vial. We have a bunch of creatures. There's no reason to mulligan these hands. Again, yeah, 1-lander. Play, definitely dump it. Draw. Problem is that everything is a double blue, which is a bit awkward, except the Phantasmal Image. Like, draw, well, you could think about it on the draw. Like, again, like against, like, Mardu Pyromancer, you know, this is not that bad of a keep. Unfortunately, it has no card advantage, but, you know, like I'm only talking about on the draw and against very good players, where card advantage is going to be important. This hand is a mulligan. We have 5 mana sources. None of them are Mutavault. And even if one was Mutavault, you know what? I think we could toss it back anyway. We can draw a card off of Spreading Seas, but I have found that when your hand is just this full of garbage, it is not worth it. Harbinger of the Tides is not a powerful card as well. Like, when the only creature is just going to be a Grizzly Bear that is going to bounce something, like, I find that if my hand is pretty mana heavy, I at least want a powerful card. And when I mean a powerful card, I'm talking about the Lords or Master of Waves. Those are powerful cards. Those are the cards that are going to help push through damage and win the game. Harbinger of the Tides by itself isn't going to do anything. So this is a clear mulligan. So let's look at what happens when we mulligan this hand. So we have a 6-lander. This hand is great. We have 2 lands, cast all our spells, Spreading Seas. We're going to be in that game. We're going to play some Magic. So this hand can't cast anything, so this is a mulligan. We've got 2 pieces of brown mana and nothing to actually cast anything. So let's mulligan this hand. And this hand is also pretty terrible. We can't cast anything. No lander again. Mulligan to 5. Okay, so now this is interesting. I'm pretty firm on my belief that if you mulligan to 4, you've lost. There are some exceptions to this. Like I think you can mulligan to 4 against Tron. You can mulligan to 4. Like if you can imagine a deck where two lords can basically win you the game, like two lords and one piece of interaction can win you the game. So in theory, this could work against Titan Shift. In theory, this could work against Tron. In theory, this could work against Ad Nauseam. Then I think you should go to 4. But like, if you go to 4 and you're up against Jund, you're lost. If you go to 4 and you're up against Mardu, you're lost. If you go to 4 and you're up against Control, you've lost. You're not beating any of those decks at 4. It's just to be down 3 cards is just too much. If your opponent took a mulligan to 6, okay, maybe you can. Maybe I can see I can see you going. I can see you making a comeback when you're 2 cards. You have a 2-card difference from your opponent, but not 3. Like even if you're on the play and your opponent's on the draw, this is already a beating because you have 5 cards and they're going to draw to 8 to start the game off. So that hurts a lot. So like I always find that going to 4 is suicide. This hand has Silvergill Adept and Merfolk Trickster. Like you're really asking to draw into. I would say I want to keep this on the draw. Like I want to keep this on the draw. I just want to take the risk. We have a hand full of really good cards. Lord of Atlantis, Mass of the Pearl Trident, and Merfolk Trickster. I really just don't want to go to 4. Blind. I just don't like going to 4. I mean, you can get some nice hands with like Island, Vial, I don't know, 2 Silvergill Adepts, but you're just gonna get killed. So let's look at let's draw a card. Can we draw a card? How do we draw a card? So let's say, or how do I scry? Okay, what's our scry card? It's a Mistcaller, so I would dump that, and then so I'm only considering keeping this on the draw. On the play, I guess we have to go to our death, and then our first draw will be a land. All right, so that we're sort of in the game. Well, I mean we're not in the game yet, and then hopefully we're gonna draw another land. Nope. And oh well. I mean at this point we might be dead. I think you're allowed to brick at least once on a turn. But not twice. I think in Modern you're just going to be too far behind. But my point is, so let's say we mulligan to 4. Like this hand can do something. Actually, this hand looks a lot better than what we kept there. Let's see. Let's scry our card. It's a Master of Waves. We can dump that. We're gonna draw a card. Oh, then we can actually play some magic here. Start with we actually can't start with Mistcaller. We actually have to start with Silvergill Adept into Mistcaller. That's our next card. Have some lands. I'm still not confident in like the 4-card hands against a random deck. If I know that my opponent is like this hand, maybe can come back against Jund if we like draw into like some lords and we have this one piece of interaction, like I said. But like going to 4 is suicide. It's just suicide. People talk about how I've won at 4 before. Yeah, but how many times have you lost? I'm just not confident in 4-card hands. Although on the play with that last hand, I can't keep it. Like on the draw, I'm gonna gamble, but on the play, like because you have to start your game not doing anything. So I would be willing to mulligan to this card hand on the play, but on the draw, I would just try to gamble with 5, assuming my opponent kept 7 cards. This hand's great. 1 lander with Vial. I keep these all day. We have Harbinger, we have Trickster. No power in this hand, but I think it's fine. I mean, by turn 3, hopefully we draw at least another island to Spreading Seas our opponents to death. With 2 Spreading Seas in hand, there are a lot of decks that just get shut down by it. I mean, when you have multiple Spreading Seas in your hand, you open the possibility of getting a free win out of your opponent, even though this hand really can't close the game out really quickly. It's just a bunch of grizzly bears. Still, I think this hand is very, very good. I like it. No lander, got a mulligan. Great hand. We have lands and spells. No reason to throw it away. Great hand, lands and spells. We can start off with Silvergill Adept, and even if we don't draw an island somehow in the next 3 turns, we are or the next 3 cards, we can cast Phantasmal Image to copy the Silvergill Adept, or at worst case scenario, you copy your opponent's creatures. Also, under some circumstances, we can just attack with a Mutavault. Lands and spells, can't throw it away. Turn 1 Mistcaller into Lord of Atlantis. A really good hand against like spirits and humans, actually. Just to go like Mistcaller into like creature and more lords every single turn, great. Really good on the play. Fine on the draw as well. Lands and spells. Can't throw this stuff away. If you got lands and creatures, great. And even if this Tidebinder Mage was a land, I would keep that as well. Lands and spells. Looks great. We have Mutavault can definitely be seen as a creature here. You can start off with Aether Vial. Next, go like either Spreading Seas or Master of the Pearl Trident, whatever you want to do, and slowly deploy your creatures with Aether Vial. Lands and spells again. This is great. So long as you have your lands to cast the cards, it's all good. Yeah, I'm gonna keep this because I can cast Spreading Seas, so it's worth at least 1 more card, and we can play. We do have a play in the form of Phantasmal Image, if nothing else, by the next turn. We definitely need some help though. We don't have Minamo's not a Boro, so we need to draw at least 1 more blue source in order to cast our other cards. But I am willing to keep this sort of hand. Not amazing, not an easy keep. But a keep nonetheless. So long as I can keep casting things on turn 2 and turn 3, then I don't mind waiting other turns for that extra blue source, and we can use that blue source to cast Merfolk Trickster, slow our opponent down, and hopefully wait till we can cast Master of the Pearl Trident or Master of Waves. Lands and spells, can't throw them away. Unfortunate part about this hand, it's not very powerful. Not very powerful. And against certain decks, this hand might be, sort of poor. Tidebinder Mage might be blank. Like, if I knew I was up against... if I knew I was up against Affinity, this hand wouldn't be that great. So, not the best, like, random keep, but still a keep. I don't want to throw it away. 1 lander with Vial, great on both the play and the draw. Let's revisit that thing about... let's say you're afraid you're up against Mardu Pyromancer, and they're going to... Inquisition your Aether Vial away. This hand is amazing on the draw. This hand is amazing against Mardu Pyromancer. Okay, they take your Aether Vial, and now what? This hand is fantastic. This hand is still fantastic, because if you draw any land, then you're going to play Silvergill Adept, you can draw a card, you can play Spreading Seas and draw a card, you can just play Merfolk Trickster and Phantasmal Image, and just play a game of Magic. You want infinite gas against those decks, because they have infinite removal, and you're not going to beat them by tempoing them out. You got to have more cards than them. No, I'm gonna mulligan this on both the play and the draw. This Mutavault's unreliable. The only thing we can do, we need double islands to get any of these cards online. So this is a double island, this is a double island, this is a double island, this is a double island. In theory, we could Spreading Seas our Mutavault, but I think this hand is still too risky. We have 2 Cavern of Souls in this deck, and if we draw one of them, then we can't even take that play. So this hand's a mulligan. This hand's great. Got 3 lands, cast creatures, play Phantasmal Image, attack with Mutavault. Looks beautiful. So we've got just lands and spells. Turn 1 land, turn 2 Silvergill Adept, 3 maybe play Spreading Seas into Master Waves into Phantasmal Image. I love it. I love it. 1 land hand with Vial. I'm going to keep on the play on the draw. No problem. Love it. 1 land, play on draw. Keeping all day, all day long. I don't know why anyone would mulligan these hands. It's insane. Aether Vial on the draw is what you want to have, and you know what? Even if you don't draw your next card, at some point, if you draw a land at any time, then you can start deploying 2 cards a turn, which can help you catch up. 2 lands that can help you cast your creatures and your spells. It looks good. Keep. This hand looks great. Land. Not perfect. It's got 4 mana sources, but you know what? One of them is a Mutavault, and it's a pretty. Actually, this is still pretty good. It'll help you really curve out really fast. And if you draw one more land, then you can curve into Master of Waves really comfortably and run your opponent over. Keep all day. Snap keep. Just have a few lands, Ether Vial. Even if it gets taken or destroyed, you can still play Spreading Seas and play stuff. Keep lands and spells. No complaints here. Yeah, this is a mulligan. Yeah, you can't do anything. This is just a one piece of brown mana, so we got a mulligan this hand. This is This is a hand I don't want to keep, but I'm gonna keep it. We've mulligans. Cause the thing is, there's no powerful cards in this hand, but I don't want to mulligan to Oblivion into 5, so I'm gonna keep this at 6, and then hopefully, so this is our Scry. Sort of poopy, but you know what? It synergizes with Merfolk Trickster, so maybe it can buy us some time. Like, all it takes is like maybe one Spreading Seas into a Lord, and all this dinky stuff turns super powerful. So I'm just gonna keep it, but it's not that great of a hand. It's not that great of a hand. Just letting you know, it's underwhelming because you don't have any power to back up any of these creatures. You can end up playing all these grid. Like if you're up against Death and Taxes, for example, this hand's gonna really suck because they're just gonna outpower you at some point. Or if you're up against Eldrazi, the hand is just really poor. Yeah, it's just a poor hand, but not something I want. I really don't want to mulligan to 5 because the risk of going to 5 is too great. I don't want to get 2 cards. I really don't want to have. I don't want to be in a situation where my opponent has like 2 or more cards starting the game with 2 or more cards than me, because then it's going to be a really uphill battle. So maybe depending on the deck you're up against, you could consider mulliganing if your opponent mulliganed. And let's see what that mulligan would look like. Let's say our opponent mulliganed. I mean, this would be a keep. I have to keep this hand. But obviously you see that it's better than the last one. We have some power here. All we have to do is, but it's risky because we still need our next land drop. But yeah, I don't want to mulligan to Oblivion if my opponent is keeping a lot of cards. Because that one lander at 5, I mean, you're risking a non-game. Come on, what's going on here? Keep, easy keep. It's got a lot of... so it's got a lot of mana sources, but it's got 2 Mutavaults, and we can consider these creatures. Like I said, when we have a lot of lands, I want to look at like how many Mutavaults do we have, because we can consider these creatures. We can go turn 1 Mutavault into Ether Vial, turn 2 attack with the Mutavault, turn 3 maybe play something that we drew off the top, but at that point I think we're still attacking with Mutavault. We're going to Vial in a Master of the Pearl Trident, play Master of Waves, and even if they kill the Master of the Pearl Trident, the Master of Waves and these 2 Mutavaults are actually quite a bit of an army. There's a lot of decks that can't handle that, so I would keep this hand. This is an interesting one. I actually prefer to okay, I'm definitely mulliganing this on the play. On the draw, well, we have Harbinger just in case we stumble, but it's like a risky keep on the draw. I'm not super happy about this. And if we're on the if we're on the draw, we can afford at least one mulligan, so I would take that mulligan. Again, against like Mardu Pyromancer, I'd probably just keep this hand. This hand's fine. It's a bit mana heavy, but we have a Mutavault, so whatever, we can keep this. So this is a good hand. This hand's great on both the play and the draw. You can curve out Mistcaller, Silver Gilladept, Merfolk Trickster, draw another card. So we're drawing 2 extra cards with this hand, so it's good. This hand's good. This hand's good. I'll keep this. We're only 1 land away from casting Master of Waves. I know we don't have mana to cast Lord of Atlantis, but we're going to play turn 1 Mistcaller into turn 2 Mistcaller, play Mutavault, and We might have to take a turn off from doing anything depending on how our opponent sets up, but like by turn 3, like let's say we're up against Tron, we can attack for 4 with the Mutavaults and the Mistcallers. And all it takes is like one more land. If we get one more land for Lord of Atlantis, then we're golden. If we have to draw another Mutavault, then we can cast Master of Waves. I think that, I mean, the hand is like a little bit iffy, but I'm willing to keep it. This hand is great. Lands and spells. So this is very, very good. You can cast Silvergill Adept. Like, okay, I know everything. There's a bunch of double blue spells in here, but I'm not going to mulligan this. We're going to draw at least one card for our first draw step and our second draw step, and we're going to draw a card off of Silvergill Adept, and one of those lands, odds are one of those lands going to be an island. And even if it isn't, we still can take a turn to wait for that last island. It's not a problem. But we can, yeah, so I would still keep this. This is fine. Sounds great. Land spells. Great. We have double blue to cast everything. So yeah, one lander again. You're mulliganing those one landers on the play and in general on the draw. Actually, let's talk about one-landers versus control. One-landers against control are not the same as one-landers versus Mardu Pyromancer. Control, mana advantage is really important in control, in the control matchup. And if your opponent has like 4 lands and you have 1, there comes a point where you're just going to be playing like 1 creature turn, and they're able to like cycle cards and kill your creatures at the same time, and that's not where you want to be, because at some point they're just going to play a planeswalker while you still have like 2 lands in play, and you can't do anything about it. And when you like mulligan and post board, if you've brought in counter spells and stuff like that, like they're not going to matter. Your interaction doesn't matter when you're choked on lands. So actually against control, like I'm only keeping these one-landers against like, I don't know, super attrition based decks like Jund, super like something really heavy on removal, something super heavy on removal like Mardu Pyromancer, but against control in general, you need to have lands in order to get in the game. You don't want to fall too far behind on mana, and yeah, so I would mulligan this, and this hand is fine to keep. This hand's great. Well, I mean, these Tie-Binder Mages could be useless against certain decks, but hopefully not. That's why I got him in there. This hand's great. Lands, spells, got Ether Vial. This hand is interesting. This hand's poor, but I'll keep it. Fortunately, there's a Mutavault. Yeah, we have a Harbinger of the Tides, but like, I don't know how important it is with this sort of hand. But fortunately, we have a Master of Waves. So like, this is a poor keep, but this is a keep I'm going to make. Fortunately, we do have a Mutavault here. It's just like, Ether Vial doesn't really matter in this sort of hand. Can't really take advantage of it. It's not going to vial in Master of Waves or anything like that. So hopefully we draw well. So on the play on the draw, I would keep this, but not super thrilled. Of course, against the Inquisition decks, not super happy. Or if they thought Seize users are going to take your Master of Waves, and then you have like a miserable pile of crap. But you know, I'm going to keep it. I'm not thrilled, but I'm going to keep it. This is a mulligan. I'm going to mulligan this on both the play and the draw. I'm not really thrilled about these 1 blue mana source hands with like no card draw opportunity. There's no Silvergill Adept in here. Or like, okay, so, well, we have this Mutavault. So anyway, we can't cast anything. Phantasmal Image needs another blue source. So I'm going to mulligan this. Just a double blue, nowhere close to casting Master of Waves. Against Mardu Pyromancer on the draw, like again, you could just treat this like a 1-lander. I think that's fine. You could probably keep something like this on the draw. Actually, this is actually way stronger on the draw against something like Mardu Pyromancer, because this Mutavault can eventually facilitate casting Master of Waves. Sounds great. Keep. Hand's great. Lands, spells. How can any of this go wrong? Lands and spells, love it. One lander, very good one lander on the draw against Mardu Pyromancer or Jund, because our creatures are Silver Gill Adepts. So like hopefully that will help draw us just into more infinite gas. Keep. These creatures are not powerful, but you know it's still a curve. If we draw a Phantasmal Image to copy the Master of Waves or just one Lord, it can make the hand really strong. Keep. Lands, spells, a lot of Lords. Easy keep. Lands with Ether Violin, creatures and spells. I would say, okay, so this hand has no power in it. There's nothing powerful. We have lands and spells, but there aren't any powerful cards in here. So let's say we're up against like Tron. I mean, this hand's like really poor. We have no interaction. Like I would against Tron, I would definitely mulligan this. Like you can't race them with this. Like your clock is incredibly poor and incredibly slow, and none of these creatures matter. And we don't have Spreading Seas in our hand. Like the hand that this is good against is some sort of like green creature deck where you could like Tidebinder something, Phantasmal Image, Tidebinder another thing, and then maybe wait long enough to find a Spreading Seas or Master of Waves. But that's situational. So like against maybe a deck where clunky green creatures matter and you know the matchup's going to be slow, then maybe you could keep this hand. But I think in general this is a mulligan. This is just not powerful enough. It's not powerful at all. You could maybe consider keeping if you know that you can copy something really good with Phantasmal Image, but I would just mulligan this. It's just not a powerful hand. And maybe that's something I should point out, like how many powerful cards in your hand. So here's a powerful card. This is a really good card. And now this is interesting. I think on the draw I keep this because we have a Scry. And on the play, I could probably mulligan this. One lander on the play on 6. It's risky. It's risky. And you know, depending on the matchup. Like if I'm up against Tron again, I'll mulligan. If I'm up against Jund, maybe I can talk myself into keeping this. But one landers, you have to make a judgment call on the play whether you want to keep it or not. They're risky keeps. And fortunately we do have something to cast here. It's not like all double blue spells. So we can cast Spreading Seas, we can cast Phantasmal Image if we draw a Mutavault. But yeah, under other circumstances, just mulligan this again so that you can play a game of Magic. So like, going back again, if I examine my opponent is like a pony, is if they're weak, do you know what? I don't want to risk keeping this hand. I'm gonna mulligan. And here we go. I can play a game of Magic with this, but unfortunately we're down a lot of cards. So if my opponent has any removal, then like this hand could get completely squashed. Well, that sucks. That's very interesting. This is like the pillars of the island tapestry. This is a mulligan. Easy mulligan. Oops, I should have mulligan. Okay, let's pretend we mulligan that last one, because that deserved a mulligan. Easy keep. We have a one-lander with Vile. I would keep that. And, you know, like, this is great. Silver Gill Adapt and Spreading Sea, so even if we draw a Mutavault, like, we can cast things. This is a no-lander. I'm going to mulligan this. Okay, I'm going to keep this, but it's a bit risky, and I'm keeping it because the upside to Spreading Seas is relatively high. It's that I have multiple Spreading Seas in my hand. Multiple Spreading Seas can offer you some free wins where you mana screw your opponent, and you just, like, if your opponent is mana screwed and they can't cast anything for several turns, you have to understand that's extra draw steps for you, that's extra attack steps for you. And this is worth at least 2 more cards to draw into more creatures, and then, of course, if we draw 1 Merfolk, then we can cast Silver Gill Adept and draw even more cards. So I'm going to keep this at... Why is this 7? Or maybe... Okay, maybe it was 7. So yeah, anyway, yeah, I'm going to keep this at 7. This is fine. Lands and spells, keep, and we've got a powerful card, Master of Waves. I'd keep this, easy. Turn 1, Ether Vial. Play and draw, I would keep this. Turn 1, Ether Vial. Turn 2, Ether Vial. And then eventually we catch up. This hand is good. Lands and spells, keep it. This hand has no lands, so let's mulligan. This hand has no lands, so let's mulligan. This hand has lands, but no double. Oh, it's ugly, but we have to keep it. You're not going to mulligan to 4. I mean, we can't. The sad thing about hands like this is that you need at least one more draw step to draw another island or Cavernous Souls in order to cast Merfolk Trickster, so it's a bit sad. It's a sad keep. So I hope you guys really like this video. Yeah, thank you very much to Stefan, who suggested that I make it. It's been a long time, long while, and I know over the years people have been asking, how do I keep or mulligan with Mono Merfolk? Well, here it is. So if you guys have any other hands that you want me to judge, you can let me know in the comments section below. I'll let you know if you should be keeping or mulliganing those type of hands against whatever archetypes you're concerned about. So anyway, this has been Nikachu with his Keep or Mulligan Modern Merfolk video.